Amateur Girl and Fanboy present the Big Bad Glass Movie Review.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fanboy in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Today, I'm here by myself, and we're going to talk about a little bit about uh, a James Bond movie called The Living Daylights. Now, The Living Daylights was, I believe, came out in 1987. It was like, for me, I've been waiting for a Bond movie since, I don't know. Roger Moore I was not a big fan. I mean, I've become more appreciative of his work over the years, but I wasn't a big fan when I was younger, back in the 80s and the 70s. So when they said there's going to be a new James Bond played by, to me, unknown Timothy Dalton, I was excited. And I said, all right, a new James Bond. Maybe, it'll be different. And it was. It was. It turned out that the Timothy Dalton Bond, much different than Roger Moore Bond, much tougher, more realistic, kind of like the Daniel Craig era. He only did two movies, The Living Daylights and License to Kill, which I both like quite a bit. Now, there's a few interesting things about Living Daylights. It was the last story that was based on a story, last film that was based on a story by Ian Fleming called The Living Daylights. It was I remember reading these in high school, but I don't have a great memory of the stories that I read. But I think they came out in book form as the Living Daylights and Octopussy together. And my dad used to be used to read James Bond. He was a literary fan of James Bond, and I used to read the books he had. This also was the last the last soundtrack by John Barry. The contributors to the music were fairly, phenomenal. You got John Barry, of course, doing the soundtrack, but you had Aha, one of the guys from Aha, doing the lead song, and then you had the Pretenders who did the outro song, and they were kind of like, I think, the hitman that walks around with the headphones on. He's listened to the Pretenders a lot. So it was, it gave it an 80s feel because it was 1987. It was also these two movies, licensed to Timothy Dalton's movies, were only two of them. Cubby Broccoli, it was his last two productions before his daughter took over. Now, I haven't really looked this up, so I'm not sure if he died soon after License to Kill was produced or the years thereafter. But anyway, after these two were done, Living Daylights and License to Kill, which we'll talk about later, it was like it wasn't I don't think it was until 92. I think 88 or 89, License to Kill came out, and then 92, 93, something around in those during that time. GoldenEye came out. The Pierce Bronson era started. But right now we're just talking about Timothy Dalton. The intro was interesting because, they had all these guys parachuting in on some kind of, mission, practice mission, as thought it was. And you don't know which one of them is going to be Bond, because I don't think anybody really knew Timothy Dalton. I mean, not in the general public. Now Timothy Dalton is, and then of course, if you've never seen it, these parachutes come down, these different things happen to them, and then finally you see who Bond is, who 007 is going to be, and Timothy Dalton's face appears at the peak of one of the action scenes at the very beginning. Dalton is now considered one of the better Bonds, right, along with Daniel Craig. Why? Because Roger Moore. It must have been a silly era back in those days. It must have been a silly time, the 70s into the 80s, because Roger Moore was just such a silly James Bond. Like I said, I watched them all 26 movies, and the Roger Moore era was entertaining. As I watched them one after another, it's just so different, right? Timothy Dalton, you know, is not the ladies' man Roger Moore was. He's like a one woman bond, as they say. Um, Not like Roger Moore, just got so many women coming and going out of his bed. Um, but so it definitely things started changing. It became more realistic, less women moving in and out. I guess less Bond girls. I don't know. But the Bond girl in this one, the celloist, it was interesting. The plot line goes that Bond's going in to stop the assassination of one of a Russian who's trying to immigrate to the West, and he goes in to stop the assassination. Um, so that's how the plot gets started. And then they got gun dealers and drugs, and they got all the also something that has to do with Afghanistan. They have all these things intertwined because in the 80s that was what's going on. The Russians in Afghanistan, the drug trade, and things like that. They had I keep kind of confusing this with License to Kill, which is a much different plot, but uh, Living Daylights and all was very good. Was it one of the best Bonds? I don't know. It's definitely in the top 20 easily, even though there's only 25. So that's a pretty wide mark to hit. But they had great stunts. Dalton famously did some of his stunts. He didn't do all of them. He had his own stunt man, but he did a lot of his stuff. The stunt on the airplane has been reused. I don't know if anybody's ever done a stunt like that up to that point, but it's been reused quite a bit. Uh, Tom Cruise has used it. Mission Impossible, Fast and the Furious has used it. Uncharted, that's even in the game where they're fighting off the top of the back of the plane. But as far as I know, this was the very first time that was ever done, that big plane fight scene. So that was amazing. So there's a lot of really good things about this movie. And if you have never seen it, I suggest you rent out and pick it up on Prime or HBO, one of those places. I think they're for free right now, but you can also purchase it. And have a good day. This is Fanboy signing out from Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Game over.